Hey guys, it's the first week of October! You know what that means. It's Beast Wars week, and I will try to do a little extra Beast Wars content this month, but the last time I did Beast Wars month, I may as well have taken a ball-peen hammer to my channel's kneecaps for all the good it did me. So I'm mostly content to keeping it to the week, lest the YouTube algorithm kick me in the shins super hard again. And this time, it's a special one. But first, your likes! Please give, and maybe subscribe. And I'm doing Dinobot and Airazor at the same time again. But there's a twist with this one, where last time I bought Airazor myself and Dinobot was a gift, this time Airazor was a gift, and so was Dinobot. What did I do to get fans like you all? It is unreasonably humbling to get stuff like this. Thank you so much. So first, let's take a look at Airazor, who was gifted to me by Mentally Doomed at the same time they sent me Inferno. Sorry this has taken me so long. Who, if you do some mental gymnastics, is the first toy of a female character in the Transformers who was not made as a redeco of a male character. I mean, the toy was intended to be male, but Mainframe wanted more female characters for the show, so they just made Airazor's part female. Though I swear the toy package didn't get the memo until the last possible second, and they panicked. An aerial reconnaissance expert, Airazor TM, optical matrix scanners can detect Predacon TM ground movement from 30,000 feet. Internal radar transmitters then relay data to fellow Maximals TM, complete with 3D virtual reality maps detailing enemy location. Cyberblades hidden within wings open for attack, and although photon cannon concealed beneath tail is her weapon of choice, she prefers attacking Predacons TM with her armor-slashing titanium-plated talons. That has all the energy of a knockoff Toys bio, something that just reads like, good HeroBot is the am to defeat the bad HeroBot, with although photon cannon concealed. That should not have been so hard to read if it was written by people who actually speak English. Apparently their find and replace function was horribly broken, because it feels like they removed like 6 places where the word he was supposed to be, and only added in like 2 instances of her or she's. Anyways, let's talk about the actual toy, which, once again, Beast Wars was on some next level shit. Better than all the stuff that came before it, and better than stuff that was coming out a decade after. Hell, this is better than some of the stuff we get today. There are still primitive aspects to this, like the screws visible over the shoulders, and the fact that this doesn't really look a ton like Airazor, but to be fair, that's largely because the show decided to betray this toy. Though you can say that of just about everyone in the show. What I'm stunned by is how well the quality has held up all these years. I remember popping ball joints off constantly back in the day, but if anything, this feels like all the joints have tightened over the years. So despite the chonky backpack and the ball joint construction, this stands proudly. And while yes, we do expect a bit more from the sculpting in the modern day, this still manages to be a cool and fun robot mode with some good cybernetic detail. Gotta love the Frieza Core shoulder pads, always a look. And you know, this may be a little clunkier than the Kingdom figure, but I do find the backpack still looks cleaner to me. The worst aspect of this is the way the bird head chest, truly a bizarre phrase, has this big hole that the robot head is supposed to slot through, which it has a weirdly hard time doing. This is big enough to fit my pinky finger in, so it's a bit distracting and the largest negative of the whole vibe this thing gives off, which I will say still reads like the character despite the massive feminization the show gave it, and stuff like the change to its head crest. On this figure, it's just like a big star on her forehead, kind of like the Nova Corps helmets in Marvel. On the show model, it was this big cool bird beak, which is weird because technically that was faux forming for a part that didn't look like that and wasn't supposed to wind up there. This also has big green bug eyes and a silver faceplate, yet more evidence that her face shouldn't have been purple and was just reflecting the lighting. It has some of the vibe of her character, but not a ton. And the robot mode is pretty good. Were it not for the wrong color, this would have been a solid representation of the show model for the time. Though, to be fair, the color can't be blamed on this thing. I just don't understand why her later figures going forward tend to be brown when the character isn't supposed to be. I sadly did not get her accessories, if she had any, because I'm pretty sure that this bird gunfoot thing on the card isn't supposed to be real, as why would she have a third foot? Looking into it, and I'm wrong. And it doesn't make sense that I am. Posability, as always with Beast Wars figures, is just way better than it had any right being given this thing's age. Kenner really did just outdo Hasbro on the design front for decades. Head has a full rotation and a ton of down, though obviously you want up for a flyer. Shoulders pull a bit more than a 90, bit more than 90 elbows, no wrists, no waist, but you can fake an ab crunch. Legs are super unimpeded forward, unimpeded to the side, and slightly impeded back. Maximum knees. And feet with a huge toe up and a solid toe down. So while this is missing a waist and wrists, almost all of its remaining joints have better than average posability, with the legs having way better than average. I mean, maximum joints all the way back in the 90s, and it's got an ab crunch? Also for $8 back then too? I don't want to hear how me expecting basic levels of articulation on all figures is unreasonable ever again. I also enjoy the way this transforms way better than the Kingdom version. They probably do about the same amount of stuff, but this just feels like more, and it feels more clever. Plus, it's less fiddly, so it just makes me so much happier. Though you do have to know to hinge down the head slightly so the bird noggin can slip past it, then hinge it down more and spin it around to hinge it back up. I love the way the hips shift to change the bird's posture, and you wind up with this. Yes, the legs are a bit extremely long, but I find that it hides the robot just a little better than the modern figure, and it's just so much more charming too. I can get behind this goofy thing so much more readily than a thing trying and failing super hard to look like a real bird, plus it has the flappy action. Yes, back in the day, even toys under $10 had action gimmicks and more posability than modern Beast alt modes. Plus now you can flip these forwards and she's got like pincher spikes that look like a massive pain in the cock to use. Good thing she doesn't have one of those. Then I have this unbelievably cherry Dinobot given to me courtesy of Shio Soup. It is 25 years later, and it's like this figure hasn't aged a day. The clear plastic, famed for breaking, isn't even scuffed, and it holds like it just came out of the factory. And guys, I just don't know what to say. This hits different for me. I took it out of the box and my heart started racing. Every time I look at it, I feel the breath catch in my chest. This is my childhood. Dinobot was not only my favorite character of all time in anything ever growing up, he was also my favorite toy, and I don't know if those two are even connected. Velociraptors are just cool, and this is a mostly really cool looking robot made out of one. What's not to love? It's just tough and awesome looking, and I will always be here for a beast former that uses the animal head as their chest crest, one of my favorite aesthetics of all time. I put this on a shelf the other day, and while I was laying in bed, I got worried that if an earthquake were to happen, it could fall down. So I got up and went to move it down to a safer location. As I walked over to it, I'm not joking, some tears welled up in the corners of my eyes because the nostalgia for this thing took me right back to some of the happiest memories of my childhood. Probably also thanks to the fact that I was tired. And I don't mean to make Mentally Doom's gift seem like it's lesser in comparison, as that too is just wonderful. It's just that the original Dinobot meant so much to me. Now let me trash the shit out of this thing. The mutant head for this guy was a choice, and it gets super in the way all the time, to the point where as a little kid, I took these parts off and threw them away. As cool as the dino head chest crest, still a weird phrase, it is one of the most intrusive ones out there, sticking out too far and feeling like it should click down just a little further, driving my OCD up the wall. While at the same time, my OCD makes me want to pick up a figure like this. And yes, it is very satisfying to do it like that. OCD man, away! His proportions are funky, with his shoulders being over his jawline, and the thighs being itty-bitty, and it's got a remarkable amount of back kibble for a guy built the way he is, who also parts forms, and has even worse kibble in his alternate mode. Plus, this idiot can't hold his sword and shield like a sane person. Imagine trying to fight someone by pinching your sword in your fingers while not using your palm at all. The head could be really cool while not accurate to the show even a little, because while Dinobot wasn't changed to be a woman like Airazor, he was still changed with the intent of him being cooler than the toy. But it's got these two halves of his mutant helmet cluttering up everything, making it kind of hard to appreciate. I do like the fact that he has a faceplate, as faceplates are always cool. But there's not too much to say about this because it looks more like Grimlock than it does Dinobot, and the mutant head is more of just a skull mask. It does a few cool things though, with the way that the sockets fill out with his inner helmet, and the fact that it disguises the face well despite being clear. But yes, while I still absolutely adore everything about the way this looks, it is undoubtedly one of the more clunky Beast Wars figures, and famed for breaking thanks to the old style of clear plastic, which I can say on this copy is holding up like a dream. Though there are some stress marks on the ports, it would seem. I do have the accessories for this one, so he comes with his tail, which breaks apart into a sword and a kind of shield. The sword is cool, meant to look like bone, though it's neither good for stabbing nor slicing. And then the shield actually makes a great deal of sense if you are planning on fighting only in melee. Projectiles will still suck for this, but it will deflect most melee attacks pretty well, doing the job of a much bigger shield in a more compact package. Also, the action gimmick is just extremely fun and satisfying, though also very breakable. Don't lose these though. I've lost both of these on multiple copies of this figure, and it's a tragedy every time, leaving him without an ass and an incomplete alt mode. Posability is not quite the standard for other Beast Wars figures. Head has some solid swivel, but not a ton. Shoulders pull a 90 and can kind of be faked for backwards and forwards butterfly. Elbows pull a good bit less than a 90, opening and closing hands, no waist, legs are unimpeded forwards, very impeded out to the sides and extremely impeded back, slightly more than 90 knees, and feet with a massive toe down and a strong heel down. So yeah, even by the standards of the era, he wasn't great at this. I can say that for a kid about 5 years old, it was still awesome, but this guy is getting by on style points alone. But then you get to the transformation, and while yes, this parts forms, and it's semi-ruined if you lose those pieces, I just can't help it. I still love the way this thing works. The conversion is my everything. From the way that the dino head folds up, to the way that the shoulders swoop around to form the legs, to the way that you plug in his butt, and then you plug in his tail into his butt. I am living. And then you wind up with this excellent-looking 90% of a Velociraptor and 10% trying very hard to ruin it. Look, I can't pretend that this objectively very ugly undercarriage bothers me at all. Head sticking straight out of the throat, feet barely bluffing at being a neck, childbirthing hips that definitely got translated into the show. I just don't care. I love this thing too much. The only thing that bothers me is that the plate on the back of his neck wasn't painted like the rest of him for some reason. And the uncooked chicken skin color is fine. He is goofy looking from the front though. Mouth opens and closes a good amount, neck bends forward, arms are good enough to do the I am not the dinosaurs you are looking for. And the legs are pretty much as good as the arms ever were, and they are ungodly amazing at keeping him standing. This may be one of the most stable figures of all time. Outside that, the tail also rotates very unnaturally, so if you need that for whatever reason, there you go. And look, despite its problems, I even still have more fun with this thing than I do the much bigger Megatron from the same year. It's just got charisma. And I love both of these things. They both work so amazingly well. Airazor, while not having quite the posing of the Kingdom one, still manages to be great with a few tricks of her own up her sleeve. She has a way more fun transformation, and I think her bird mode, while less realistic, comes up as a whole feeling more like it has a cohesive identity. Plus the action gimmicks. They were just trying so hard with this. And while Dinobot may be a lot more clunksome, he's also one of the most reproduced toys in all of the Transformers. With so many recolors and retools, he puts most spots to shame. So he's gotta be doing something right. But for me, I recognize the faults of this thing, but they just don't matter. This figure is unbelievably special to me. Thank you, Shiho Soup, and thank you, Mentally Doomed. I don't know what I did to earn amazing fans like you guys, and I can only hope to keep doing it to pay you back for these. And before we go, let's thank a channel backer. And this time it's Igor the Diesel Lord with 86 Hot Rod. You have been with me a long time, you absolutely unbearable diesel. Good to finally get to your pick. And 86 Hot Rod can have his window break by plugging in his backpack. And that's about all the bad I have to say about it, other than it's actually a deluxe, because it's still a micro masterpiece of the dude that looks absolutely amazing, poses great, has a solid though slightly cumbersome transformation, and that slick 80s alt mode we all love. If you are someone who can find it in your heart to forgive Hot Rod for not actually getting Optimus killed, let's be real, we just needed a scapegoat, then I think you will truly enjoy this thing. Seriously though, be careful with that window. And that's not half of what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know, you know, what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.